Hey, it's Yesenia from Novels and Nectar. If you're new here, welcome. This is a cozy bookish corner where we talk through romance, romantasy, and whatever else I'm reading, so you can decide if a book belongs on your TBR or if you just need a quick reminder of what happened before you dive into the next installment. In each episode, I'll share a quick review, then a spoiler-heavy summary for those of you who've already read the book and just want a refresher. I will always keep the review lighter on spoilers, and I will give you a very clear warning before we move into the summary. All right, now let's get into today's book. Hello, lovely people. Today we're going to be talking about People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. Before we get into the review, here are a few quick stats. This is a contemporary romance. It has a very nostalgic, tender, emotional vibe layered with some light humor. The story is told in first person from Poppy's perspective, and we do have dual timeline structures that alternate between past trips and the present timing. Spice level, I gave this a medium with one open door scene in chapter 26. And no major content warnings, very light emotional tension, past regrets, and I think there's a pregnancy scare in there. Okay, with that in mind, let's go ahead and jump on in. So like that moment when you're about to take a sip of something sweet and it turns out that it's water? That's exactly how I felt about this book. I went in expecting this full vacation, romance energy, something closer to White Lotus vibes, if you've ever seen that show, and totally not what we got. I pictured a stranger at the pool and sparks are flying over, the sunset, there's cocktails, all this type of thing. Of course, I didn't read the synopsis clearly, and it completely threw me off when I realized that this is Poppy going on vacations, and it's not some mysterious guy. It's actually her best friend. But honestly, the sweetness caught me off guard, and not in a bad way. This was my first real friends to lovers book, which feels kind of wild to say after reading so many romances. I've gotten used to pretty much, I think, the dominant, out of nowhere male love interests. And Alex, our main male character, is not that. That being said, the dual timeline structure made the pacing for me feel a little bit uneven. The jumps between past trips and the present day vacation kept pulling me out when I felt like I was just starting to settle in. And I really just wanted to stay in one moment just a little longer before we would move on. The ending and how things kind of play out does tie up neatly, and I did appreciate the emotional payoff that we get from the story. But the book as a whole didn't really land for me as anything super crazy. It was just okay for me. So this is more of a sweet story, and it definitely has a different vibe from what I usually read, but it still didn't hit quite the way that I would have hoped for a contemporary. Ultimately, I think I'd recommend this if you love friends to lovers with genuine history, you're okay with the dual timeline storytelling, and you're in for a contemporary romance that's more emotional than steamy. All right, so from here on out, we're going to be transitioning into spoilers. So I'm going to be walking you through a summary of People We Meet on Vacation. If you've not read it yet, now's your time to pause here. Okay, so if you're still listening, you're okay with spoilers, so let's get into it. Poppy and Alex met at college orientation in Chicago. She was this loud, spontaneous ball of energy, and he was quiet, studious, and someone who prefers silence. They barely spoke. Then freshman year ended, and Alex needed someone to carpool home with to Southern Ohio with. He ends up carpooling with Poppy. On this drive, everything changed. They sang karaoke in the car at the top of their lungs, and Poppy felt more comfortable with him than anyone she'd met all year. 10 summers ago, they took their first vacation together to Vancouver Island. Alex was terrified on the plane, so Poppy held his hand. They ended up in a retirement village and could only afford 3 restaurants, but they had the best time. That trip cemented it. They would take one summer vacation together every year. Over the next decade, they built separate lives, but continued to stay connected through these trips that they would continue to take. Poppy ends up moving to New York and dropping out of college, becoming a travel writer. Meanwhile, Alex gets his MFA and became a high school English teacher back in Ohio. During their trip to Northern California 8 summers ago, they pretended to be newlyweds and got upgraded to this beautiful inn. When Poppy sobbed that no one would ever love her, Alex told her that he loved her and that they could die alone together if she wanted. But they were both dating other people. Alex started a serious relationship with Sarah, a librarian from college. Meanwhile, Poppy was dating a chef named Guillermo, who left her after making her feel that she was not good enough. On their New Orleans trip, Poppy read a short story that Alex had written and felt like she had finally belonged somewhere. She felt that as long as she had Alex, she would never be alone. 6 summers ago, in Vail, Sarah finally gave Alex permission to go on a trip. They ran into Lita, a girl from their first vacation who was now pregnant and 5 years sober. Alex told Poppy that he was sorry that he hadn't been consistently available and that no matter how things changed between them, he would always love her. Poppy decided that she would rather have parts of Alex forever than risk losing him completely in a relationship. 4 summers ago, their Sweden and Norway trip got canceled when Poppy came down with pneumonia. Alex came to New York to nurse her back to health. They lay in bed together with this warmth between them, but Poppy was afraid. She wants adventure and travel, and Alex just wanted to settle down. 3 summers ago, they went to Tuscany with their partners. Alex had gotten back together with Sarah, and Poppy was dating Trey, a photographer. At a party, Alex's grandmother asked Poppy if she loved Trey the way that she loved Alex. Poppy admitted that she didn't. She didn't think she could ever love anyone the way that she loved Alex. During that trip, Poppy has a pregnancy scare. Alex found her buying tests and told her that he'd be there for her no matter what. His mother had died from childbirth complications, and the idea of losing Poppy terrified him. The test was negative, but they both realized that they both needed each other more than they needed their partners. After that trip, Alex breaks it off with Sarah. He'd seen an Art Deco pearl ring and decided that he was thinking of Poppy, not Sarah, when he'd looked at it. 2 years ago in Croatia, they were both single. They barely got a moment alone because they were stuck with a lonely widowed photographer named Bernard. One night, drunk, Alex knocks on Poppy's door. They end up making out and almost have sex, but Alex stops it because they're drunk. Poppy pretends that it means nothing, even though she really enjoyed it, and then things become awkward. They stop talking for 2 years. In the present, Poppy is miserable despite living her dream life in New York. Her friend Rachel asks her when was the last time that she was happy. And Poppy knows that it was 2 years ago when she was with Alex. She takes a risk and decides to text him. They agree to one more trip to Palm Springs for his brother David's wedding. The trip is a disaster at first. The rental has broken air conditioning in 90-degree heat and only one bed. The sexual tension is unbearable. Alex is dealing with stress-related back spasms that started after he stopped talking to Poppy. Poppy learns that Alex almost proposed to Sarah and then feels guilty that she was the reason that he lost that relationship. But Alex tells her that he could never marry Sarah because he couldn't get Poppy out of the picture. After Tuscany, he realized that his love for Poppy was so enormous that he was terrified of it. At the rehearsal dinner and wedding, they act like they're the perfect couple. But at the airport afterward, Poppy confesses that she lied. She tells him that she funded the trip herself, not her magazine. She admits that she needed an escape from her real life. Alex is hurt from this. He doesn't want to be her fallback guy when she's running from her reality. He tells her that she needs to figure it out part ways. Back in New York, Poppy starts therapy. She runs into Jason Stanley, the boy who spread rumors about her in middle school, and he apologizes to her. She realizes that she can't outrun her problems, so she decides to quit her job and go to Ohio to find Alex. She finds him at a bar called Birdie's. She tells him the reason she loved traveling so much was because he came with her. She was so afraid of being rejected by him that she put as much distance between them as she could. She tells him that she'd give up New York for him and move back to Ohio. Alex says he still loves her, but they don't make sense. He doesn't want her to give anything up for him. Poppy goes to the parking lot and cries. Alex comes after her. He's been in therapy too, and he's realized that his biggest issue is his fear of happiness. He knows he'd be happy with Poppy in New York, but he's absolutely terrified. What if she falls out of love with him? What if she meets someone else? What if she dies? Poppy tells him she's terrified too. Then, they finally decide to stop running. In the epilogue, Poppy is living in New York with Alex, and she's the happiest that she's ever been. She left her magazine job and now has a column called People You Meet in New York. They're planning to go to Sweden and Norway this summer, and they'll test out living in Ohio too. Wherever Alex is will be her favorite place forever. All right, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. If you want to dive deeper into the books I talk about here, you can head over to my blog at novelsandnectar.com with a K, where I share spicy chapter lists, similar book recommendations, song pairings, and discussion questions if you want to keep the conversation going. If you are part of a book club and want ready-to-use questions and guides all in one place, you can also join the Nectar Nook, my membership where I put everything together for you in one cute, cozy space. And if you want to keep up with new episodes and new reads, be sure to hit the subscribe button and join my newsletter so you never miss a bookish update. Thanks again for listening, and I will see you in the next one.